Hello everyone, Rob Rousseau here, just reminding you to please smash the subscribe button as well as the bell and the thumbs up, leave a comment, and hey, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe over on Patreon, patreon.com/Rob Rousseau. Okay, that's all. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
This truly is amazing though. Because we talked about JFK yesterday, and we looked at this tweet from John Cipher. We looked at the tweet, and I was like surprised and delighted later, after the stream, when I go to check my phone, and I see none other than former CIA spook John Cipher has replied to me on Twitter. Like I could not believe it. It's so stupid. Like our whole future, you can get into like shitpost battles with actual like CIA agents. But like I just can't believe the audacity. I can't believe the audacity of John Cipher here. I'm gonna open that in a new tab. Yeah, we talked about this tweet yesterday. Like, just to say nothing of the fact that, like, John fucking Cipher, CIA agent, is like, what, people believe that the Kennedy assassination was the CIA? Ha, that's just Russian propaganda. And he's actually in the CIA. Like, he's not even just some random person that's downplaying it. He's, like, literally in the CIA, which I pointed out. You're literally in the CIA, John. John is going to run this up to his CSIS friend, Jim Cryptogram. He's almost certainly added this thread to your file and alerted your handler. Oh my goodness. But I couldn't believe this. Like, I just thought I was really not expecting John Cipher to respond to this tweet. And yet he did. Can we talk about how ridiculous these kinds of articles are, though? Like, what is this supposed to accomplish? Well, I guess, like, American liberals have been trained, basically, to think that, like, you can just say the word Russia, and it just completely exonerates anyone from having to have any, like, culpability for anything. That's the basic part of it. I don't even want to get into this too much, because I spent all day talking about JFK yesterday. It's to assure people who want to believe in the institutions that everything is okay. And, yesterday I was looking at that. In fact, I think some of the people that have been distracting me with this food talk, possibly some kind of Russian interference as well. I don't think we should rule that out. Like, we looked at the actual, like, documents from the CIA about debunking all these conspiracy theories as well. And about the tactics that people should use to ensure that, like, no one believes these kind of theories about the JFK assassination. And that was the fascinating thing about reading that yesterday, is when you can read this and then you understand all the ways that when people start making these arguments, they're just like parroting talking points that the CIA has deliberately, like, implanted. Do you believe the CIA, which had and continues to have their greasy tentacles and everything, killed JFK? Well, that's just the amazing thing. So you have John Cipher saying, like, oh, the tale can be traced to a Russian disinformation operation. And I say, you're literally in the CIA, John. And he says, so? And it's like, I don't think these guys are dumb. Seriously, like, I do not think John Cipher is really this stupid. This is totally like an act, but it's the idea that, like, it's very brazen. It's very brazen to be like, how is it relevant that I used to work in the CIA? Literally saying, like, the CIA did nothing wrong, just pointing out that that's your former place of employment. Former places of employment. That in and of itself, but just like John, any one of us can open a history book and we can look at the long, long history of political assassinations and destabilization efforts that the CIA has enthusiastically taken part in. Not just destabilization, but like creating or helping to create states within a state that then overthrow the democratically elected leadership of these countries as soon as the democratically elected leadership starts doing something that runs counter to American interests, according to them. Like we saw that in Brazil, we saw that in Indonesia, in South Korea and South Vietnam, during the Vietnam War when Vietnam was partitioned. It's like we all know, and John knows that we know. That's the fucked up thing. John Cipher knows that we know the long history of the CIA engaging in these kinds of destabilization efforts, overthrowing governments, assassinating political leaders. John knows that we know this. Like he's not stupid. But he certainly acts like he thinks we're stupid. Because it wasn't just me that he responded to. Right? It wasn't just me. This is amazing too. John, I don't know what John was thinking, replying to these tweets. He should have just walked away. John should probably someone should take away John's phone here. But Abby from the Empire Files, I'm assuming it was Abby anyways. This is even more amazing than the response that he left to me. They say, as a CIA guy yourself, would you say assassinating a democratically elected political leader is out of character for the CIA? Look at this motherfucker. Oh, it's against the law. Against the law and insane. It's not really hard to find background. Coups are illegal. Assassinating people is illegal. Can you imagine the CIA participating in something illegal like that? Coups are illegal. It's against the law to do political assassinations in democratically elected political leaders. It's against the law. So, of course, the CIA would never do this. My theory is that Rob Rousseau is working for some organization I will not tell the name, and is disguised as a switcher. It seems so obvious. Belly's hurting. I'm not a member of any of these intelligence agencies, nor an asset or anything like that. Okay? That's not true. Like, I spend all my time on here trying to convince people that these people are pure evil. Why would I do that? It makes no sense. Cipher and Rob rehearsed this. If I was in the CIA or one of these intelligence communities, I would be talking about how I would be saying China bad all day. That would be my main thing. That's what I would be talking about right now. But I literally say China good. I do the opposite of that. That's what an asset would say. Oh, shit. That's how they get me. Think, people, think. You see, the CIA is just another organization, Rob, and you're demonizing the many good folks that work there just doing their job. Stop being paranoid. It's just a government agency. If I used to work for the CDC, would you say I work for them for life? Absurd. The CIA is really just a bunch of nerds protecting us from foreign hackers and stuff. Come on. This is what these libs think, though. That's the fundamental thing that they think about the CIA. Oh, they might have done some bad stuff in the past. But overall, it's just filled with hardworking folks that want the best for the United States. Probably should have done this title a while back. Once again, I messed that up. And I'm not going to spend much longer on this because I'm still punting the thing that I've been wanting to talk about for 2 fucking days. John is really a victim of bullying by online bros. Really regrettable stuff. Why is he responding? Why is John Cipher responding to these fucking comments? That's what I want to know. Like he's got, like he's like, even if he's not technically in the CIA anymore. He works for Spycraft Entertainment and the Atlantic Council. Espionage-related storytelling, true fiction. I wonder what kind of... Shit, what's that? Close that. I'm sure they got their fingers in all kinds of stuff. They're probably working on that show with Office Jim. About how evil Venezuela is. Spycraft Entertainment is a global... What even is that show? I can't even remember. It's like that John Clancy thing. Spycraft Entertainment is a global production company run by former senior intelligence officers from the US and the UK and experienced Hollywood producers. By the way, don't... remember, folks, we're not inundated with propaganda like these other evil foreign authoritarian countries, right? Jack Ryan, yeah. John Spy, American Spy, something like that, yeah. But we're not inundated with propaganda to the same extent that these, like, you know, scary authoritarian countries are. No. We just have former spooks joining like entertainment companies to advise Netflix and other content creation conglomerates. But that's not propaganda. It doesn't count because there's this degree of separation. We help retired members of the intelligence community turn their ideas and intellectual property into world-class content, and we work closely with them to develop projects across a range of media, from podcasts to television series to feature films. We focus on true fiction, okay, emphasizing quality, authenticity, and great storytelling. Our network of ordinary people who have done extraordinary things, which is pretty much word for word what Office Jim said when he went and visited the CIA, right? He literally like repeated that word for word when he was talking about how great the CIA is. Comprise innumerable untold tales that have the power to inform, inspire, and entertain audiences around the world. Here's the actual reality. True fiction that have the power to inform, inspire, and entertain audiences around the world. So here's... Here's their fantasy version of Venezuela. Here's the fantasy version. Here's their, if you want to use wrestling terms, their fantasy, this is the CIA with this Jack Ryan series. They're fantasy booking their Venezuela up. And we've seen now for 3 years they've been running this up in Venezuela to just disastrous results time and time again. Because in the fantasy booked version, you have woke girl boss Juan Guaido replacing the evil president, the evil dictatorial president of Venezuela.
¿Cuál es la mayor amenaza a nivel internacional?
Whoa. That is in Spanish. That is in Spanish.
You do this often? Kidnapping people of this.
Oh, this is season 1. God damn it.
What's the most major threat on the world stage? Venezuela is the single greatest resource of oil on the planet. So, why is this country in the midst of one of the greatest humanitarian crises in history?
Presidente Reyes nos ha traicionado a todos.
Woke girl boss
The
Guaido,
Russians
there
are
she is.
secretly selling weapons to Venezuela.
It would fit a pattern.
It's time we stop.
I think Russia should be selling Venezuela weapons. I agree with that, actually. If that's what's going on, I think I support it.
This ends up in the news, it's just going to cause panic.
And in nuclear Venezuela, you will not hear about in the news because we'll already be dead.
How much do you want to bet that good old our friend of the stream, John Cipher, has his dirty little fingerprints in this very TV show? I'm willing to bet that he's got something to do with this. Our friend John. His dirty little spook fingerprints are all over this.
Business a pleasure, Jack?
I'm here for work.
What happened?
Reyes! Look at me. Was his name ever mentioned?
You guys stay. You have no protection. Nobody's coming to save us.
We do this together. I can live with that.
This is what we call true fiction. And here's the reality. Okay, that's the fantasy booked Venezuela. That's not the reality. You can't get rid of me that easy. You can't get rid of me that easy. Okay? You can't get rid of me that easy. I'm bouncing this signal off a couple satellites. Okay? You don't think I've thought about this ahead of time? You don't think I've thought about this ahead of time? I'm always... Listen, John. John Cipher, I know you're watching. I know you're watching right now. I'm always one step ahead, alright? You can't just take the stream down because you don't like what I'm saying, sir. I'm bouncing this off of a number of different satellites. Okay? You can't take down my stream. I'm not going to be silenced. I'm not going to be silenced here. My point is, though, this is the reality of the CIA op in Venezuela versus the fantasy version that John Cipher, friend of the stream John Cipher, is like selling to, you know, film and TV studios. This is the reality of it. By the way, folks, if you're watching and I could be taken off the air again. If you're planning to subscribe during the stream, you got to do it now. I would say to do it now. Get it out of the way. So if the CIA messes with the signal anymore, that's not going to be affected in any way. Okay? If you're going to subscribe, I would say to do it right away. You don't need to hold out till later. It's really the best way to own the CIA. You know, we none of us like the CIA. We know the terrible things that the CIA has stood for throughout the history of the agency. Really the best way to get under their skin is to subscribe to this stream, though. They hate that. Just saying. Last night, Non-Compete was having a fun one, decided to run around outside in Vietnam doing the Salt Bay meme and yelling about how he's not gotten arrested yet. That does sound
You
funny.
can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Sophisticated Pills. Look at that. Thank you. First gifted sub to the CIA. It's a little weird. Listen, this is a welcoming space to everyone. This is a welcoming space to everybody, including the CIA. Even though I might be against what they're doing. I might be running my little counter op out of the basement. That doesn't mean I'm not gonna welcome them into this community if they want to come and hang out here. They might learn a couple things. We've got to amplify CIA voices. Thank you. You want to see it one more time, Red Scary? I was doing the fantasy versus reality. We looked at the fantasy version of Venezuela according to the CIA, and here's the reality of it. Fucking dumbass. And it really, this is a way to transition into something that I wanted to talk about as well, because Venezuela just had an election. I don't know if you know about this. They just had an election in Venezuela. And it's actually really amazing seeing the ways that this is being spun in Western media. Because once again, they had an election. They're not able to kind of like pretend that it's illegitimate the way that they usually do. There was opposition members running in this Venezuelan election, and a friend of the stream, Nicolas Maduro, still managed to win this thing, despite apparently the fact that he's just hated and despised by everyone else throughout the country. You know, they all hate him, but somehow this guy just keeps winning. Let me see if I can find this tweet that I'm talking about, though. Look at this. From the New York Times. The New York Times, of course, they would never engage in any kind of like imperialist propaganda efforts, regime destabilization efforts. Look at how they talk about this. Hey, look at that $1 patron. That's nice. Very cool. Look at this, though. This is amazing. Maduro doesn't... and again, no connections with the CIA and the New York Times whatsoever, right? None whatsoever. Maduro doesn't need to jail everyone like Ortega to win elections. He's perfected a much more sophisticated system by dividing the opposition, stoking apathy, and keeping a loyal minority dependent. He can sweep the vote even under international scrutiny. So that's New York Times speak for there was international scrutiny of this election, it was legitimate, and Maduro won the election. That's New York Times speak for that. It's like they're still just framing that as being somehow like inherently sinister. Like this is literally like what politics is. This literally sounds like what happens in the US. Again, or Canada as well. Or Canada as well, right? Justin Trudeau received like 40% of the vote, or under 40% of eligible voters in Canada voted for Justin Trudeau for Prime Minister. That's a total of like 19% of eligible voters in the country. And this guy's he's the leader. He's the leader now. No term limits in Canada. No term limits. He's the fucking son of the former Prime Minister. Very popular. Political dynasty. Like if the exact electoral circumstances of Canada were happening in Venezuela, Canada would be the first country to be like, this is not legitimate. This is not legitimate at all. We don't approve. We don't agree with this. Canada would be the first country saying this. He's not his son. Well, technically. I mean, he shares the same... He's still part of the same political dynasty, regardless of the parentage, which is in dispute. This is just like in Black Shirts and Reds, where he explained how all coverage of the USSR is spun to be bad no matter what. Exactly, yeah. If the churches were full, it means that people were rejecting the secular communist ideology. If the churches are empty, it means they're repressing religion. If unemployment is high, if unemployment is low, there's always a spin. There's always a spin to talk about it. But this is amazing. This is literally the person in the New York Times openly saying Maduro is the legitimate president of the country who won a legitimate election, including by featuring members of the opposition. It was under international scrutiny. They still won, but apparently this is very sinister. It's very sinister how he wins elections legitimately. Oh my gosh. Very scary stuff. But look at Canada though. Like, this is really amazing. Like, can you imagine the fucking arrogance? So you even have the New York Times under duress, basically admitting that there was a legitimate election in Venezuela and the guy that we don't like won. Like, he's basically openly admitting this. And look at the fucking arrogance of this country, which I just described the way that Canada's most recent election, probably less legitimate than the Venezuelan election, I would say. Less democratic and less legitimate. And the fucking arrogance of this goddamn country. Our foreign policy Canadian Twitter account says, Canada stands by the people of Venezuela and echo their continued call for full respect for the Venezuelan constitution and the holding of an electoral process that reflects the true desires of the Venezuelan people. Only Canada really apparently knows the true desires of the Venezuelan people. Literally, when the Venezuelan people elect a leader that we don't approve of, we just say like, no. It's like that meme of like the consent. You know, Venezuelan voters consent, the Venezuelan government consent, but isn't there someone you forgot to ask? That's right, Canada. Canada says no, we don't agree with this. We didn't consent to this. Respect D's nuts. That's right. That's what I would say. Absolutely. Global socialism will start backing capitalism into a corner while capitalism lashes out with acts of eco-fascism, and this is just the beginning. And yeah, I agree with that, Kurt. Definitely seem to be in the early stages of a new Red Scare in the United States and Canada as well, which is going to escalate. It's going to escalate a lot over the next couple of years. But it's just the arrogance is what really like sticks out to me about this. The true desire. We have fucking Canada lecturing about the true desires of the Venezuelan people when they just held what the New York Times admits is a legitimate election. And we're still pretending that this guy, we're still pretending this fucking guy. Where is he? I lost our friend Guaido. Fuck. We're still pretending this guy is the legitimate president. This is the true will of the Venezuelan people. This is why they want this guy. Never mind the fact that he wasn't actually running in this election. Never mind the fact he's got no popular legitimacy whatsoever. When they tried to do their cute little coup op, a couple years ago, just no one showed up. They did this whole thing where like Marco Rubio and all these fucking weirdos were saying, oh, tomorrow the Venezuelan people are going to come together and rebuke Maduro and all this stuff. And he just showed up on that bridge, just no one was there. Like, there's literally no one likes this guy. And Canada is still pretending that this guy's the president. We're saying that this guy's like complicated little game of dress up that he's doing here. And Canada's like, yep, this is, we agree with this actually. I seriously, me, Rob Rousseau, I have, I would say, more legitimacy than Juan Guaido to be the next president of Venezuela. Or at least the same amount. Okay? It's at least a tie. I have just as much a claim to be president of Venezuela as Juan Guaido does. To be honest, I've always marked the beginning of the third Cold Scare as the Venezuelan embassy siege in DC a few years back. I mean, that could have been the start of it, Poison, but I really think we're not really prepared for the ways that it's going to escalate over the next couple of years. I recognize Rob Rousseau as the legitimate president of Venezuela. Well, thank you, Biggerwig, but Venezuela doesn't need another legitimate president. They already have one. They have a legitimate president. Weird timing, just finished new Insurgents ep and logged onto Twitch seeing Rob on. I guess Canadian Thanksgiving was a while ago. That was last month. That's right. You know what we have to look at again, folks? You know what we have to... Why can't I find it? I swear Google is like... YouTube is deboosting these. Give me the clip. Why can't I find it now?
En el error de no ser periodista, sino ser militante de la oposición. Te contesto.
Son los datos.
Te contesto. No son tus datos, no son los datos. Te contesto porque, está bien, acepto tu rol de militante de la oposición venezolana. No hay ningún problema.
El rol
Ahora,
de periodista.
No es periodista, Jorge, tú lo sabes. Caer en el error de no ser periodista, sino ser militante de la oposición. Te contesto.
Son los datos.
Te contesto. No son tus datos, no son los datos. Te contesto porque...
The man.
Está bien, acepto tu rol de militante de la oposición venezolana. No hay ningún problema.
El rol
Ahora,
de periodista.
No es periodista, Jorge, tú lo sabes.
It's funny because, like, it shows how far, like, I've come along personally, just in the last couple of years, where, like, I think in 2018, when this op was going on, I was still kind of nervous about just, like, supporting Maduro. I would have to do it ironically. I would do ironic Maduro standing. And now I just genuinely think that he's good and cool. And I like him. And he's the legitimate president. That's it. That's the end of it. I'm not going to be ironic about this stuff anymore. You know? He's cool and he rocks. It's true. It's true. But it's I just wanted to point this out too, because just the fucking arrogance again. You like the idea that we're still supporting this guy Juan Guaido and pretending that this guy's the president. Like, it's just a joke. It's just a fucking joke. He literally doesn't have any political role in the government. He didn't run in this most recent election. And, you know, that's usually their strategy when they have these elections. They boycott them. They boycott them because then they can just say that it's illegitimate. But there was opposition members running in this election. They didn't even boycott it. And they're still fucking pretending. I dumped a lot of my liberal techie friends when I stopped keeping my opinions to myself. I guess that's one thing, Annie, that I've felt strongly about, especially over the last year of doing this stream. I've just been like, I'm not going to like keep this stuff to myself anymore. I'm not going to like, even though it upsets people sometimes. And China is another example of this. I think a couple years ago, like when the Hong Kong protests were going on, and I was seeing major red flags about these Hong Kong protests, but at the same time, I wasn't really comfortable being like, and pointing this out and talking about how I didn't think it was, legitimate, or talk about the ways that, it was being used as a destabilization effort. I still felt really uncomfortable about this, and now I'm like posting pics of President Xi dunking on Enes Kanter and Enes Kanter's mentions. I've really come a long way with my comfort level in talking about these things and openly denying them or supporting them. Kind of hard when my dad is like this hard anti-China guy, unfortunately constantly listening to CFRB. That is really that's tricky, Rudy Prospero, and that's the thing. There's a major information war going on right now, a major propaganda effort to ensure that people are like that, especially our like boomer dads and stuff, right? So it's not surprising that people are getting caught up in it, and that's all the more reason why I feel like it's important to sort of push back on it. Haven't heard anything crazy about the Philippines recently. Duterte is pretty wild. Yeah, I do know that, and I do. There's like a Maoist insurgency going on there as well, right? Which we should support. The bus driver. How can you not like this guy? Look at this. You're going to tell me this guy's like an evil dictator? He's wearing a bitchin' tracksuit. He's driving a bus, waving at people, waving at Chavismo supporters. having a great time. You're telling me this guy's an evil, brutal, authoritarian dictator? Give me a fucking break. This guy, really? This is like your nice uncle. This guy. Oh, we got to be really scared. Oh no. Oh no, we got to really be scared of this guy. Do you think Lemicki should have been suspended for more than a single game? I don't know. I thought they both probably should have just got one game. I'm old school, coal mine. Give them a game to cool off and get them back playing. 2 days through the wisdom teeth removal, and I'm swollen on one side of my face. Can't find any intel at the moment because of the pain I'm feeling. Pray for me, Patriots. Well, I hope they gave you some good stuff to deal with that, though. At least, coal mine. That's one of the high points of getting those kind of procedures done. But yeah, we definitely need to be very scared of this like cool, friendly bus driver guy. Absolutely. You know? And that's one of the, it's tying everything back to like John Cipher. That's one of the things that I think that they're very keenly aware of, the John Ciphers of the world right now, is that they're aware that they're losing their grip on these narratives. And like how they used to just be able to say like, well, no, you're a socialist, but what about Venezuela? And then the response to that previously would for people to be like, oh, but no, not like Venezuela, because that's bad, but I just support the, and now there's a whole like generation of people that's being like, yeah, like that. Yeah, that's right. Like, oh, yeah, I'm sure you support Venezuela, don't you? And it's like, yes, I do. Yep. Oh, yeah, next thing you're going to tell me you support North Korea. Is that true? And it's like, yes. Yes, it is. You know what I mean? And I feel like they sense that. They feel that they're losing their grip. Because they can manipulate liberals like this. They can manipulate liberals very easily with this kind of stuff. They've been doing it for a whole generation. As long as I've been alive, right? But all of a sudden, it's trickier. All of a sudden, you're not able to, like, play this game with people anymore. And it's actually preferred to say the DPRK. Well, I agree, Annie Oddly, and as many people know, everyone that watches the show know that I am a supporter of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. I'm just using that as an example because that's how these types would talk about it. That's all. Didn't Enes Kanter do the Grey Wolf salute once? I'm not sure if he did the Grey Wolf salute, but he is like a Gulenist. He's like a, he came up in one of these Gulen, there's this whole network of Gulenist schools in the United States that he went to. No, it's okay, Annie. I got you. Don't worry about it. He's an extremist. That's why I keep pointing out, and I've become this like annoying guy, and I've become like an annoying Enes Kanter reply guy. But I keep trying to point this shit out. Enes Kanter is going to try to pretend he's some human rights defender.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk
Here's
through
Enes
all
Kanter,
this.
the human rights defender, talking to the Israeli ambassador. That's how much he loves human rights. John McCain's Ghost, thanks for gifting a sub to Annie Oddly. Here we go. You know what? I think we need a Maduro emote, don't we? I think we need a Nicolas Maduro emote. And he needed that Kim emote, that's right. And that's another thing, I probably wouldn't have been as comfortable 2 years ago being like, yes, I, Rob Rousseau, support the Democratic People's Republic of Korea without couching it in these layers of irony. And now I just say it. And it's fine. Oh, I'm sorry, Rylan. What's up? Did I miss it? Did I miss a comment here? Did I miss a tweet about being live? No, I tweeted about being live, Rylan. I tweeted that I was live under my now viral tweet featuring my beef with John Cipher of the CIA. See, look at that. And that just brings us back to where we were at the beginning there. Which is, I was just really amazed by this because we spent some time talking about John Cipher yesterday on the stream. And I was just surprised and delighted when this fucking dumbass actually responded to me. Not only responded, but doing this like dumb guy act of being like, whoa, what does it matter if I was in the CIA? What does that have anything to do with it? It's like these people really think that we're stupid. And that's kind of what I was saying before too, is that like a lot of liberals would take this moment and be like, oh, but when you have that kind of confidence, you feel comfortable articulating these viewpoints, they don't have this power over you anymore, right? It's a good feeling when they can't control you like that. We need a La China emote to give sports fans representation. Coal mine. Imagine supporting a tiny country like North Korea that is blockaded and vilified by, oh yeah. And Kurt, I mean, that's another reason that I like to talk about this as well, is because there's a lot of people. Being Maoified would be an honor, absolutely. I agree. But there's a lot of people that, like, they have this weird disconnect where they think, like, they'll support Cuba, they'll support, these like, Central and South American revolutionary governments, no problem. But then when it comes to just like, let's take that same support that you give to like Cuba or Bolivia, let's take that same support and just give that support as well to North Korea. It's a very similar situation. And for some reason, there's a lot of people on the West that are on the left that are like, whoa, that's way too far for me. But it's like, what? It's literally like it's the exact same situation, just in Korea instead of Cuba. Why can't we just, if you support Cuba, why can't you support North Korea as well? And they this really trips people up. Which is part of the reason that I've started to become more vocal and open about talking about it, I was in a panel once about the future of the GOP, and I was like, the GOP should be abolished, and literally everyone gasped. It did. It's uncomfortable at first, but it's just liberating. Like, you can just let go of this idea that democracy means more political parties. That's what democracy is, was when you have these opposition parties trying to, like, destroy everything that you're doing. That's more democratic. It's like, it kind of seems less democratic in some ways. I don't think that is really democratic at all. I think it's better to have less. Get these opposition parties out of there. That's what I would say. When I learned just how active the DPRK is with sending aid to other nations fighting against imperialism and colonization, my hesitancy to openly and publicly support them and other anti-imperialist nations. Yeah, it's like, it's really incredible. The level of like international solidarity that they show to these other countries. The incredible monuments they've built to places in like Africa to like build monuments to these like anti-colonial heroes and stuff. Meanwhile, this article just came across my Twitter feed. CIA director, again, where democracy dies in darkness. CIA director warns Russian spies of consequences if they are behind Havana Syndrome incidents. Ooh. I'm sure Russia's just terrified. I'm sure they're just terrified by this. Yeah, China fucks up foreign policy all the time. Yeah, I agree, Biggerwig. I mean, we saw the other day they came out and supported in support of a two-state solution in Israel-Palestine. And you can kind of understand why they take these stances, but it still doesn't mean that it doesn't suck, though. It does suck. You know, I think we would all like them to take more forceful foreign policy stances like that. I sort of get why they don't, but like, I would much rather a country just openly support good things and oppose bad things. How many people outside of the greater DC area believe in Havana Syndrome? Well, you know what, Jojo Monkey? I think like more people do now because there's been this really coordinated and comprehensive media push about this. For now months. Like we've been talking about this for months. Havana Syndrome. So I think a lot of all our like MSNBC moms and dads and gams and whoever that watch this shit all day, I think a lot of them believe it now. Because it's like, why not? They go and turn on MSNBC and they see like CIA guys and FBI guys on there and State Department folks talking about how real it is. And, you know, why wouldn't they believe it? Because that's, you know, they take their cues from these mainstream media outlets. Well, I guess some deprogramming work for tomorrow's Thanksgiving. That's right. Instead of like arguing with your family members about it, you can just send them to this channel and get them to subscribe. It just blows my mind how often people don't believe you when you tell them supporting indigenous self-determination includes North Koreans. Annie, I think a big part of that, right, is that people don't have a real understanding of what the Korean War was about and what happened in it. And even if they accept what the United States and its allies did in Korea in the Korean War, they'll still accept the framework that the North is the one that started the war, which again is not accurate at all. But I mean, there's been a lot of propaganda out there that have convinced people of this. Explaining to my 76-year-old dad what franker face he is. Yeah. Havana Syndrome probably real, but a byproduct of our own surveillance equipment. Yeah, probably. Probably. Like, or it's just like these people, you know, that's their conscience. It's this feeling that like telling them that like, no, you work for like a terrible terrorist organization. That feeling that they get these voices and then they put it down to a pit in their stomach to force to like avoid confronting any of these very serious implications. And then I think it leads to these kind of health consequences. Set up a projector at Thanksgiving, get together and screen Rob's stream. That's exactly right. That is doing politics. That is doing politics. And the Cuba government is looking at these stories and be like, what the fuck are they on? You gotta get me some. One diplomat got food poisoning one time. Now we're talking about mysterious illnesses. It's way more than that. And like I think we underestimate how all in they've gone on this media push about this. Like it's been months of these stories.
In the winter of 2016, diplomats Kate Husband and Doug Ferguson were working at the U.S. Embassy in Havana, Cuba. Their nights at home interrupted by a piercing noise coming from their backyard.
I'll just play it for you so you can hear.
It was a lot worse earlier. It was persistent, kind of at the same level all the time.
Crickets.
Very, very loud. It's nothing you could sit with.
Kate, did anyone else in your neighborhood
put in some fucking
experience at their homes?
Earplugs,
yeah,
lady.
On our right,
you're gonna be fine.
Was another embassy family, and then the people on our left.
That's
and
a cricket,
across the street
lady.
From us were both
It's a
Canadian
bug.
embassy employees.
It's not a big
and
deal.
In the end, all
Stop
four
being a baby.
were diagnosed.
In a nearby neighborhood, Tina Onifer, who worked with Kate and Doug at the embassy, was washing dishes one night in March of 2017.
The kids were upstairs playing.
This is
I was standing at the
Good old
kitchen
Rob
window,
to,
and all of a
talking
sudden,
through all
I
this.
felt like I was being struck with something.
Thank you, Kijiji Genie, for gifting a tier 1 sub to Havana Syndrome, and welcome Havana Syndrome to the channel. And also, if it's real, I agree with this as well. If it is real, it's based and good, and Cuba should share the technology, or they should get to keep it. If they've invented a microwave headache gun, that's an amazing engineering accomplishment, and I think they should hold on to it. Think of how many of these suburban CIA officers constantly mock country or rural people, and here they are driven out of their minds by crickets. Losers. Just a nation of losers.
What was it like? It was gripping. It was like I had been seized by some invisible hand, and I couldn't move.
Tina, Kate, and Doug didn't know
That's
it
the
then,
invisible hand of
but
the
they
market
were among
at
the
work.
first victims of a still unexplained phenomenon that has come to be known as Havana Syndrome, with more than 200 Americans around the world, mostly U.S. diplomats and spies, reporting neurological and other symptoms.
They literally say
The primary
spies, too.
injury I have is what they're calling an acquired brain injury.
An acquired brain injury related to a directional phenomenon exposure. What did the neurologist tell you about the changes in your brain?
He said, well, it's like you aged, 20, 25 years all at once.
So Cuba has a microwave headache ray that ages your brain 25 years. Like this is like a mainstream news story. Like it's absolutely ridiculous that people believe this. But that's what I mean. It's not just people out in Virginia or people in DC that believe this stuff. This is on TV fucking every night. All of our MSNBC watching parents and uncles and aunts and nanos and gams, whoever, they all believe this now because there's been a coordinated, comprehensive propaganda push to make people believe it, and they do.
How is your health today?
It's not easy to talk about our health because it's an invisible injury. It's 4.5 years of excruciating headaches. It's 4.5 years of stumbling, losing my balance. 4.5 years of vision degradation. People don't understand what this kind of brain damage
Cry.
can do to you.
Cry more.
Despite the rising number of reported cases, there is still skepticism. Some have suggested it's mass
there's still
hysteria.
skepticism.
But doctors who've examined the diplomats for the State Department and a National Academy of Sciences panel that studied their illnesses have reached a different conclusion.
I don't know why this happened to these individuals, but I do think it was deliberate.
Stanford professor David Bowman led the panel that reported the most likely explanation was directed pulsed radio frequency energy.
There are many international actors who would have the means of deploying a technology like this.
How do you feel when you hear all the doubters who say, oh, it's
My eyes got bad as I got older.
It's
No one
mass
understands my
hysteria.
pain.
I mean, I have verified physical injuries. I spent about 9 months trying to do my old job.
Yeah, I wonder what an illegal embargo, which is an act of war also, by the way, that causes malnourishment does to people's life expectancy, but I'm sure it's not as bad as Havana Syndrome. Yeah, you wouldn't want to get a little headache from listening to a little cricket sound. That seems much worse than not being able to get food or medicine, for sure. People with unrelieved health conditions are extremely common in the US, and it's fucking bullshit that people care just because of communist microwaves. And it's, yeah, for sure, we need to unlock a couple extra billion. The like $700 billion annual defense budget isn't quite enough to cover the healthcare for these folks. We got to have thrown an additional GoFundMe there to ensure that they don't have to pay for any of this stuff. And if you're actually disabled and dealing with dismissed chronic pain, you never get news coverage like this or the financial assistance to treat it. They could have all gone to a local clinic in Cuba and got a free checkup. That's right.
Pieces of it, a few hours a day. They call it work hardening after a brain injury. And I felt sick all the time.
While Doug has recovered and is now based at the U.S. Embassy in Paris, Kate's diplomatic service is over, and Tina's rising career cut short.
I work
Or polar, that's crazy. Literally all my life, my symptoms were fake and made up, and I'm going in for brain surgery in 2 weeks to fix it. That's amazing. That's crazy. Can we see some crying Robs in the chat, please, for our poor Havana Syndrome victims?
For 2 hours a day, if I'm lucky, remotely here in our house. As much
Let's see some crying
skepticism
Robs.
as still seems to surround this, it's very real.
Lives forever altered, the diplomats are speaking out now to put a face on the unexplained mystery.
These are just normal folks from Michigan who are out there serving their country, and this thing happened. And I want the viewers to understand that this is real, this happened. This is happening.
It's not real.
It's very easy for people to be dismissive and say, but you look fine.
Yes, it is easy to be dismissive.
But the reality is I'm not. And I don't think very many of us are. And we just want to have our lives back.
Andrea, those stories are truly frightening. What do we know
No, it's
about
not.
who could be behind these attacks?
Losers. A nation of losers.
The leading theory is
No offense
this
to
could
any
have
Americans
started
in the
with
chat.
a device that Russia had invented during the Cold War and was later used to spy on U.S. embassies, collecting data from laptops and cell phones. But now a hostile country may have turned it into a weapon. Russia denies any involvement.
Thanks for watching our...
Just made up bullshit.
It's very...
And we just want...
Definitely trust Alan Greenspan's wife. Yeah. It's like an IDF tank crew crying about thrown rocks, except the thrown rocks are not real in this scenario. Ridiculous. It'd be kind of funny if the CIA's insistence that Havana Syndrome is real tanks their recruitment numbers because everyone is freaked out and thinks it's real. I mean, it is something that's amusing overall about this, the general like geopolitical strategy of the national security establishment in the US over the last couple of years. Let me see. I believe it was Mark Ames that had a very good tweet about this. We've talked about it before in the chat though, about how literally we're forcing countries who once hated each other, like China and Russia, to work together. Let me see if I can find the tweet. This is it. Hats off to the DC foreign policy geniuses. They've gone from engineering 2 American defeats in the last 2 decades to uniting Washington's 2 biggest power rivals after they'd spent decades hating each other. If you want to rise to the top, fuck up big. And this is in response to now Russia and China's official news agencies reporting on the 2 countries' alignment. And that's another thing we were talking about in the past too, because it's not like Russia is socialist right now. But because of their closeness with China right now and China's rise, there is a possibility over the next couple of years and decades that Russia will be able to kind of swing back in that direction because of that pressure from China, because of that partnership. USSR 2, more people are saying that. Look, we can manifest it. We can manifest it just by saying USSR 2.